Hey, this is Amanda, and as promised, I said I would do a little video on my potting medium or substrate for my begonias. Now, keep in mind that this is just what I use and what works for me and my environment and my watering habits, etc. So try it out and see if it works for you. I know that I spent a lot of time and trial and error trying to figure out the best potting medium and tried a million different combinations, some of them rather expensive. And in the end, I just came back to this fairly simple potting medium that seems to work for most, if not all, of my begonias. Also, I use it for growing and sowing my seeds, and also for propagation for some of the begonias, but we'll do a video separately on begonia propagation at length in the future. Anyway, so this is my approximate proportion of, shall we say, ingredients for my begonia substrate. So the first one, which is the greatest amount, is I use a ProMix HP soil. It comes in a big cube, or you can buy it in, really large bags, just at your local nursery probably. I know that I can in Canada anyway. If you like, I can post a link below. So ProMix HP, and then second greatest amount or second largest ingredient is a very fine vermiculite. So it's super fine, and I love it. I mix it in with my soil, and I use it quite generously. That's probably the ingredient that is that I use the most, second most. And then I use some worm castings. So this is just the approximate proportion. I'll be mixing it and show you after. So just regular worm castings, and then I use a little bit less, well, approximately maybe the same or slightly less of just a fairly standard perlite. It's not too big. It's not like the huge ones that you might use for your larger plants and whatnot, but just a bit of perlite. And then the last ingredient, should we call it ingredient? I mean, I'm not going to eat them, but last component perhaps is a little bit of lime. I use a little bit of lime that you can just buy, horticultural lime. I just get most of my stuff from Amazon, so I don't have to leave the house. So that's what I use. So I'll show you the approximate proportion and mix it up, and you can see what the consistency looks like after. So typically I have a container, and luckily at our stores in Canada, dollar stores and a funny store called Canadian Tire, which is the strangest store. You walk in expecting it to be an automotive store, and you walk in and it smells like the toxic smell of rubber tires. And then there's Christmas ornaments and Halloween decorations, there's candy and toys, and then there's this row, the golden row of clear Tupperware. If I walk down that aisle, or I walk down the aisle towards that aisle, and thought to myself that I might be breathing all these toxic fumes from the rubber, and then I come upon this aisle, and I swear it, the aisle floor lit up like a golden path, and it was all clear Tupperware with clear lids. I mean, a plant lover's dream. Wait till you see my begonia tour. I promise though, I reuse everything. Anyway, I usually make some soil beforehand just so I don't have to keep making it. So I have different soils that I use, different substrates that I use for different types of plants. So anyway, there is my base of ProMix HP. Let's pour that in there. I tried to break these big clumps apart. I'll be mixing it up anyway. So significant amount. And then fine vermiculite. So I don't just use this amount because that was just my original proportion. So I'm going to put some more in here. to show you how much I actually use for this kind of shoebox, or slightly larger than shoebox sized bin. I'm not a chef, so I don't measure anything really. So again, that was the original proportion, but I'll be using more than that for this larger bin. So quite generous on that. And then the perlite, again, a little bit more than that. And then my lime. So that was the original proportion, but I have a bigger bin here, so I have my little containers everywhere, which again I reuse. And I'll mix it up and just see how that consistency is. Also, the ProMix, the main substrate, the soil is quite dry, so I prefer to water it, moisten this substrate in the tub as opposed to when I'm planting, because then I find the substrate gets a little too wet, or I can't get the exact consistency. It takes a while for it to absorb the soil when the original ProMix is so dry from being in the bag, and perhaps my leaving it open in the bag. So this is my, I call it my Begonia cave, or my plant cave. I converted my garage into a growing area. So I have 2 grow tents in here, and when I show you the tour, you'll see I have never even counted how many bins or begonia plants I have in here, but there are a lot. And I also have a large screen computer where I design fabric for my fabric business. I design fabric and have it printed, and then I sell it to people who sew adorable or beautiful clothes for themselves and their children. That's a whole other story. So that is pretty good, I think. I like that ratio. I may even use a little more vermiculite perhaps, but that in general I'm pretty happy with. You can see that there on the side. Might put a little bit more vermiculite in. I find it just makes the soil a really lovely consistency. I did use, what is that called? That aquarium substrate, Fluval stratum, or some kind of stratum. It's like an aquarium soil and aquarium substrate. You know those little black balls? I wonder if I have some here. I don't have any in a container here. It's in my cabinets. But I found that it broke down. I'm sure it's like rich in nutrients. But I also found, and I don't know if this is just most likely it's just a coincidence or my finding, but I found that root mealies really loved that medium. And so my plants that had the Fluval stratum all got a ton of mealybugs. So anyway, here is the magic mix, and not really very magical. And like I said, I do like to water it in here, because if I put the substrate into a container, like a planter or whatnot, a cup, if I use a little cup like this, I put it in here, then I have to water quite a bit for the substrate to absorb, because it's so dry, absorb the water, and then it's too wet for my begonia. So I don't want to mess with that. I'd rather get it nice and moist, or appropriately moist in here. I just use regular water. I was using filtered water with a zero, I think it's called a zero water filter. Like it's like a Brita, but apparently it does better than a Brita. a 0 water filter for the longest time, mostly because I had some cornivorous plants, some pings, but the pings were fine without filtered water, and my begonias are fine without filtered water. I used to pH test and adjust the pH, and I kind of gave all that up and stopped fussing about it, and they're fine, which is funny. So yeah, don't fuss about it too much. So this is not bad. I might add a little bit more, but you can see there's the consistency. You can kind of almost make a ball with it, and then you can add a little bit more when you're actually doing the planting, but you don't have to add so much that it's waiting to absorb. I mean, I used a whole one of these 2 cups, 500 milliliters. Okay, and then mix, and then I usually keep a lid on this, or I just keep it around for me to use when planting. And then I have this big TV behind this white screen that I just binge on YouTube videos. I don't really watch like TV shows per se, but YouTube videos while I plant. And this will last me, well, however long. I usually use little cups, so the begonias are so small. So this will last me quite some time, and then I can mix some more when I need to. But there's the final mix. It's not super dense and it's not super chunky, but I find it works for me. I mean, if you want to add some like thin horticultural charcoal, you could probably do that. More perlite if you wanted to, but I'm pretty happy with this mix for my begonia. All right, so let me know down below what you use, what you think of this. You don't have to agree, but this is just what works for me. And maybe what video you'd like next. I was thinking maybe I've been meaning to do one on how to sow your begonia seeds, because I've been making so many begonia seeds and selling them, that I wanted to provide a video on that. That's one option. And then I was thinking a tour, but that might be like a 15-hour video, to tell you the truth. I suppose we could do it in segments. Propagation, growing conditions. I'm sure there's lots more. And there's tons of way more experienced begonia people, way more experienced than I am, that I can share with you their Instagrams and whatnot, because they're amazing. Like, these are hardcore. They've been growing begonias for a long time. They're very studious and scientific about it all. Truly admirable people in their growing habits and whatnot. So anyway, here's my mix, and let me know down below what you'd like to see in the future, so I know, and hit like and subscribe, please. Have a good